Yes, here we go. It's the T.N.F. It's the night we hand over the keys to use. Don't know if it'll be a busy one tonight because there's another team playing, and I know we all kid on that we don't watch them in that, you know. I always think the viewing numbers sometimes when that lot of the other side of the city are playing without any competition. I mean, the Europa League could not affect us less, but I think you'll be surprised how many will be tuning into that, and hopefully with the bus on in the main and maybe the football on in the background, but we'll find out, mate. We'll find out. T.N.F's always one of our flagship shows and always one of our busiest ones. Big shout out to everyone who's joined us so far. I'm just going to turn my phone off fucking loud because that's doing my head in. Right, okay. All that good stuff means give us a wee like, give us a share, buy some hair. If you want to become a Voice of Us member, like so many have, it's $1.99 a month. It helps keeps the wheels on the road. Head over to piesports.com, 12.5% off. If you fancy a tasty pastry treat, use the code BUS1888. Remember as well, if you never want to miss a bus, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and welcome to hell. There we go. Right, okay. Judge, first and foremost, how the devil are you, my man?
I'm doing very well, mate. That wee intro song just cheers me up every week. I love that wee. That's one of my favourite songs. That. Do you know what? I had a CD about a long time, about 25 years ago, and it had that on it, but nobody listened to that song. That wasn't a song back then, but it's for the 70s or something like that. And
yes,
even earlier, it's an old song. And
do you
so
remember the
one
video that went viral?
on the bus?
This is what I yes on the bus, and it's like the two. I don't want to call them old grannies, but a couple of women of a certain vintage singing along at the front, and I think that's where it started coming back into sort of the modern day sort of songbook, or I think that was certainly one of the triggers for it to come back, because that video was just pure joy watching that when they were singing it. It's just pure joy, and you're right, it's an uplifting tune, isn't it?
It's brilliant. I mean, I love it. I mean, you can't help but join in. You know what I mean? It's on my, I was going to say my Friday night playlist, but I don't do as much drink as I used to. I don't.
Tell that to the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Tell that to the chat.
Oh my god! Fuck, tell that to Twitter. But it's on my YouTube playlist. That wee song, and I love just watching it. Amongst Liam McGrandles and a couple other select songs, of course, but and my Dire Straits, but. It's probably quite indicative of my life. Dire Straits was me, but
Dire Straits. What's your favourite Dire Straits song?
Well, I'd probably say the one. I forget the name of it. The one with Guitar George.
Oh yeah. Remember Guitar George? He knows all the chords.
I listen to everything. On my YouTube right now. It's called
Sultans of Swing.
Sultans of Swing. That's what it's called. Sultans of Swing. That's probably my favourite one. But I do like the one with the probably the most famous one, the one with the video where they're all
Money for Nothing.
Is that
Money for Nothing? Your chicks for free, something like that.
I
love Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet, best. What a great love song, mate. And the other one they've got, So Far Away.
No, I'm talking about is the video. I watch it all the time, and I listen to it quite often. The name that always evades me, but the one where the video was like all these bloopers for like American sports shows, and they're flinging a basketball, and it's like hitting somebody's popcorn out and all the rest of it. It's a brilliant song. It's probably, I think it's our most famous one.
Walk of Life.
Aye, do the Walk of Life. Aye, it's a brilliant song.
Walk of Life.
They're from Birmingham, funnily enough, so I'll be doing there soon for the Villa game. Don't know if anybody's going to do there. I think they've had much about it on Twitter. Is that?
I thought he was a Geordie.
No, I'm sure
just a big Aston Villa fan.
Might be Villa fans. I was reading about them on a while ago. I just googled the band, and it says that they're a Birmingham-based band, but I could be wrong. You know what I mean? But great band. I listen to them. They're on my when I go walking. You know what I do about walking? They're always that. James is once I start.
James, great band. Great band.
People don't realise how good they are, mate. I mean,
true.
Aye, but I don't know what is doing this. This is an episode of Scream of Celica coming up here, mate.
Back in the day, me and Tamashanta. Loved those days.
Yeah. I used to watch that one and all, mate. That was just it's just choking for Celtic content, wasn't it? But listen, I never thought of that. I forgot Rangers were playing tonight, genuinely. So we might have a bit in viewers, but hopefully the Rangers get a go against them and we can have something to laugh about during the show.
And whilst we're on trivial subjects, obviously when they last played Malmo, It's one of the most famous press conference moments,
They
I
needed
think,
that, don't they?
in my living memory. I think it's so poignant, it's so accurate, and it's just delivered brilliantly by John Dal Thomason. Hey, I think they need the money here. I think that's a good answer.
Aye.
You're all clever guys. And it's like he wanted to expand on it. He's like, you're all clever guys. I'm like that. It's just,
They need that. Aye.
that's one of the, I think they need that.
Aye.
It's
I
so
think that
good.
ended any conversation about that guy ever being at Rangers, because I think he had been spoken about as like a potential Rangers manager a couple of times. Like at that point, I mean, he was always kind of on the list. Like I think that was done when the minute he said that. But just
Yeah,
shows you that people in other countries know the state they're in. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
there's a lot of
It was
stuff going on in the
great just
background.
even having someone just putting the Scottish press back to,
Oh, because it doesn't
like, he
happen
just,
here, mate. It doesn't
because he
happen
knew
here.
though he knew it was a
Aye.
taboo. That's why he's done it. I thought, what a clever way to really get their hackles up. And he's also obviously what he was really doing as well was ramping the pressure on the tie. He's went from your actual money pressures to now highlighting your money pressures to also putting in there's now needle, there's now emotion, which they never cope with very well. So a classic moment. Let's hope they can repeat the trick. If they cares, though, really, it doesn't affect us in any way, shape,
Yeah,
or
it'd
form.
be funny.
If they do well, it boosts our coefficient. So hey, they've done all right in that regard for us as well of late. Right, Mark, title of the show. And by the way, remember this is the T.N.F. Get the hashtag T.N.F in. Do it early because we're going to go through more points than normal tonight. I think we will kick things off though with the tagline of the show. Judge, is it time to? I think I would say is it time to talk about extending Brendan's current deal? It's like football's a funny thing because often, you know, we've experienced at Celtic over the last 2 years this rolling contract thing. I think even Andrew's on one. I believe Lenny was on one second time. Who else was in a rolling deal? Martin
O'Neill.
O'Neill ended up in a rolling deal. I don't think he initially joined in one, then switched to one. I wonder if Strachan was on one. Anyway, Rodgers came in and signed I think it was a 3-year contract. It was a 3-year because he says he'll be here for the 3 years no matter what, unless he was given the boot. We're now approaching the halfway point of that, and whilst it's funny because during the first 2/3 of that, i.e., 12 months, there was more clamour for potentially changing manager than there's ever been about extending his stay. But it just goes to show you once it got to business end of last season and the trophies got banked, and then we see the fruits of the first 12 months' labour this time around, and we see a proper window where Rodgers is supported, like we were clamouring for in his first spell going into his third season. We were clamouring for it going into his first season. In his second spell, we were certainly demanding it this time around. And he's had it, and we've seen the results. We've seen the improvements that he's made to this team. I can see why this is now a conversation people are wanting to get into. I know you'd sort of mentioned it on Twitter as well, so it's quite easy to work out where your thoughts will be, Matt. But let us know why you're of the mindset for this to be a discussion point.
Well, I think once you go towards the end of this season, you're then talking about his last 12 months in charge. And then where does that lead the club in terms of the backing of the manager? You know what I mean? What's the plan? What's the future plan? You know what I mean? Where do we go after this? This seems like a season where the club has back. We made a profit, don't get me wrong, but it was backed. You know what I mean? They got the players they wanted. I think he pushed the button on Bernardo, he pushed the button on Ida, and I think he pushed the button on Engels. I think that without him, the club don't push the boat for these players. So I think they've backed them, you know what I mean? That this non-committal contracts of 1 year rolling, it just kind of buffers the club's financial commitment to the player, to the manager if they choose to sack him, and then the manager's got an easy out. But he's got a 3-year contract. Okay, we still get half of the contract still to go, or just under it. So like what happened under Ange was we saw how contracts are not worth the paper they're written on, right? But we saw how easy people can just slide away for the club when you've not got them tied in, boys. So you know what I mean? And I'm not suggesting that a 5-year contract would make Brendan Rodgers any harder to get for a bigger club, a bigger team. Sorry, any club that wants Brendan Rodgers that can afford them, can afford the payoff. I mean, but we really need to do what we don't normally do in this position and start future planning. And see, giving this guy like higher salary, you know what I mean, extend his contract, you know what I mean. It actually it settles, you know, so because there is misgivings that the first job that's coming up he's going to go. I mean, I even heard a pod talking the other day there about always a shoe in for like a Spurs job or a fucking Leicester job
The
in
two
Aston Villa,
papers
you
ran with
know,
that story. Two papers
West
ran with
Ham
the
as well.
story.
I
He was
know,
favourite to replace Ange. Incredible.
I know, and I think, you know, that's ridiculous. But I think that's just, I think when somebody says something out loud in England or say something out loud, it becomes they're being tipped for the job. You know what I mean? Well, that's not the case. I could sit and talk sport and say I really fancy Neil Lennon for the Hearts job. Doesn't mean it doesn't mean that he's been spoken about behind the scenes. Although I think if ex-Hibs manager, I doubt it. But you know what I mean. And I just don't. I just remember me and you spoke. I don't want to jinx it. Me and you spoke about 2 years ago. We should be picking Ange Postecoglou's brain because we knew that he was going to go eventually. You know, look into his insight between youth development, see where he's want to go with a football club long term, where he's going to be there or not. Pick his brain, start to future proof his knowledge rather than him being the end and then the buck stops and then when he goes, we're left scratched. He'd saying where we going here. Brendan Rodgers this year. He wanted the last time he wanted to leave a legacy. He said that at the time. I want to leave a legacy. He didn't leave a legacy that he wanted to leave, but
He definitely left a legacy.
I
Definitely.
did. He was building something into me. He was almost getting to the stage where he was building something that if you future proofed it, if he just kept it going, it'll get you long term success. If we kind of keep Rodgers for 5, 6, 10 years, where we want to, you know what I mean? We've got to start picking his brains. I don't want to jinx it like we did with Ange, but I do feel like now's the time for be tentative talks. You know, how would you feel about an extension? We get you a 4-year extension the last time, and you get you a 5-year deal and you left. We get money, you get money. We're all happy. But how's about we're in a different place here? We're in a different zone at Celtic. I think the club are gone in an upward trajectory. I think he's now beginning to, I think, get in amongst the kind of mechanisms of the club. He's now kind of getting his kind of footprint on the club in terms of how they're working for the recruitment strategy. He's going to be involved in that, boys. You see a point in this new system that they're talking about. He's going to be involved in that. You know what I mean? No doubt about it. I think maybe the Darren O'Day job position where he's the buffer in between the first team and the youth teams. I think that's been a Rodgers idea. Somebody who's been in amongst the B team and all the rest of it, but somebody who's going to create a pathway and see if he's going to be that much involved in the club. He sees maybe a wee bit a longer period than what he did the last time. This is a bit of a project for him. He said 3 years unless he gets sacked. But why? How can we not turn into okay? Let's go for a 5-year unless you get sacked. Should things go either way or somebody wants you, the option's still there for you to go. But I think
Yeah, of course.
For me personally, and as you get to worry me personally, I would start the conversations now because we don't want somebody like, I don't know, a West Ham, somebody who's big enough to take them, can afford them, is a tantalising club to go to. And I just think, and I know you're on the same page, that if we can't keep this guy forever, we need to start, utilising at least what he's got and future-proof it.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of things that you cover there that are interesting to talk about. Just before I do it, just say happy birthday to Ashley Flannery, who's in the chat. Flash, as you know, in the old Celtic social media.
Flash, happy birthday.
And she just secured tickets here for the Dortmund game, away end as well. What a birthday present that was, so
Nice
I heard.
one.
It puts the cuddly dog toy that I got to shame, to be fair. That'll be a fantastic trip, I'm sure. And we also got another new member right in the back here. So your work here is done, Flash. You can go enjoy the rest of your birthday. Thomas McBearty joined us as well. So a big shout out to you becoming a member. Also, mate, really appreciate it. Anyway, you covered a lot there, Mark.
Sorry.
And no, it's cool. No, I don't mind that at all. Just going back to, when there's a bit of good form, if you actually look at what Celtic did in the last 18 months, say, whatever, right? They were securing guys on contracts that maybe they didn't need to then as well, on longer term deals. Matt O'Reilly, no coincidence, becomes your record sale. He signed a new deal only a year before, less than a year before. We've got Rio Tati on a new deal. He still had 2 years left on his. There wasn't a big rush to get these new deals done. Quite often last summer, last autumn, there was a desire to do it to secure their long-term future at Celtic potentially, or at the very least, safeguard and enhance whatever financial reward you would get if you were to sell them. The same goes for the manager. You talk about West Ham maybe looking at him, or Spurs looking at him in that. They don't bat an eyelid, mate, at 8-9 million compensation. Well, if we were to lose him, and God forbid, I mean, that's certainly not what I'm advocating or think will happen. But if in a hypothetical world it were to, you're damn right I want to get top dollar for him at the very, that could be the only saving or crumb of comfort, if you want to call it that, if we were to go that, well, at least we had him on that, renewed deal where it enhanced, and maximised, I should say, the compensation that we got for him from the riches down south. Totally, I think that's a valid point. Not only that, and the longevity factor that you make, if he's came back with a different prism, now remember now when it comes to the down south thing, I get the Postecoglou draw to Spurs massively, and it was Postecoglou's draw to Spurs, before anyone gets it the wrong way around, not Spurs' draw to Postecoglou, that initiated that dynamic. I know folk don't want to hear it. It's the reality. That's just, you need to stop believing in tooth fairies. Sometimes you need to stop believing that Ange Postecoglou didn't engineer and instigate chats with Tottenham, and certainly, chase that opportunity about, other than the other way around. But I get it in the terms of the attraction to go into the EPL, because he's never done it. He's never been in that sort of competition at that level. Well, Brendan that we've got right now is now got in his locker promotion to it with Swansea. So he earned his right in that league with Swansea City. Their first time, I think, in the English Premier League, certainly the Premier League era. Don't know about the past, to be honest, but let's say in the Premier League era, their first ever time in that was down to Brendan. He secured them, I think, a finish far higher than they expected, which would have been relegation zone. He earned a move to Liverpool. He's been in a title race down there. He's won the FA Cup down there. He's had 2 fifth-place finishes with Leicester City down there. He has won the Charity Shield. So there's a lot more
semi-final as well.
A European, that's right, the European semi-final with Leicester. But I'm looking at the English domestic game thing, if you know what I mean. The reason I'm going down that road, Mark, is because I'm going, he's ticked a hell of a lot of the boxes that you're wanting to experience, to be honest with you. He's done the title race. He's done the Champions League spot race. He's won the domestic trophy. He's won promotion to the league. He's kept a relegation fancied side well comfortable by playing his type of football. He's earned the moves up the ladder within that league from Swansea to Liverpool. There's not much more for him to not do other than a prolonged period, say in that top 6 echelon in that league. But you don't get prolonged periods in the English Premier League, which you'll also now be more than aware of as well. I just get the feeling that this time when he's came back, with all that in mind, he's not going to be quite as drawn to these offers, if they were to come, as what a Postecoglou's never experienced it would be. So when you talk about longevity to me, one of the things about that could be that Brendan's mindset switched. His ambitions in football haven't, but the club he wants to do it with has. And that is now, I want it to be Celtic, not a club that can offer me this, and this. Now, that might be being overly romantic. It might not. It might be far more still business Brendan that goes, oh no, once I get an opportunity like a proper project down in England, I'll go straight back to it. Maybe that'll be the case. I've just got a feeling that it's not like that. And I think he'd be open to talking about a new contract. I certainly think one of the main reasons, Matt, I don't want to go on too long, but when you touched on the transfer strategy changing, Celtic still banked profit, as you rightfully pointed out. Celtic still made sure it was a Celtic favourable transfer window. But what they did that we should expect, but is very different from the usual model, is they broke their transfer record twice. I expect that Brendan doesn't see that as a big deal. We want to be a big club. Big clubs break their transfer record, biannually, annually. That's just what happens, mate. So it shouldn't be treated as a huge like leap of faith by the board. This is just called acting like a big proper club. But what it does tell you is, as you rightfully point out, maybe Brendan's holding more sway. Does that excite you then, that would maybe mean the manager being on a closer page to the board? They'll never be on the same page. But if they are on a closer page, that then does kind of lead you to that excitement of maybe you will sign a longer term deal. And maybe you will make some other sort of quip like, if I've signed for 5 years, I'm staying for 5 years unless you get rid of me.
Well, this is it. You know what I mean? I think there's a kind of two-way thing here where he wanted to make sure that the club's long-term strategy is to back his vision before he dives into a new contract. I think the club will want to make sure that he's going to at least play ball and be realistic before they offer him a new contract. I think there's a bit of a two-way thing there. I think he's got to buy into I think the fans now, probably to a man now, are behind him. I think the days of him getting booed is long over. And I think the players, have all bought into him. I think whisper it, but some of the football we're seeing just now is better than what we saw under Ange. Just in my opinion, right? It's certainly the dominance and the tactical awareness of the players seems a lot more European than what we've been used to. And as we're slagging Ange at all, but I see I don't know, it feels like a club that a team, so I say, or a squad that's in the first or the second step under Rodgers. I think he does see a pathway for this team. I think he does have a vision for this team.
If you see it with your, and don't take this the wrong way, but with your layman's eyes, your layman eye, better than, no, right, your layman eye, right? I mean, if you can see that progression, trust me, Brendan's two eyes can see it as well, surely.
Yeah. Of course, you know what I mean? I mean, if the last time we saw him at Celtic, we came for Roy Dyla and Neil Lennon, and we were shocked at how professional this guy was, how methodical this guy was, and how meticulous he was. We were playing games, and he was sitting at his wee notepad. That's a level of intensity this guy's got for football. He will see 2-3 steps ahead. That's the kind of guy he is. I'm just hoping that the 2-3 steps ahead is what I think it is, and Rodgers is preparing the club and himself for these steps. I think it is, and I do generally think that we see. I think some of last season we can put down to a couple of factors, but see when he was mentioning progressing the club on a European stage, maybe his vision was 3-4 points last season to go into the potential of a knockout tie this season. Maybe his eye is next season to be almost a shoe-in for the knockout stages. Maybe that's his vision. See, as long as, in my mind, as long as he's got these visions and it involves Celtic, we won't do bad after the park and on the park. Now, you mentioned the fact that we made profit there. You look at every season he's been at Celtic, we've went over £1 million in revenue, and it hasn't just been by accident. It's been through getting a team the fans have bought into. You know what I mean? They're buying the merchandise, they're getting good European results. You know what I mean? No, in terms of like, okay, we're not beating Man City, but we're getting into Champions Leagues. we're getting through qualifiers, which isn't always the case. We're not in a position where we're guaranteed qualification, but we've still pushed ourselves.
How many times have we I'm putting you on the spot. I'm probably putting the group chat. It's the T.N.F after all. You guys have the keys. How many times have Celtic posted over 100 million turnover?
I think it's only been about
the first ever time was definitely Rodgers' first spell.
Yeah.
I'm sure the second time ever was the second season of Rodgers' first spell.
I think this season, and I think
this season will be
the last one as well.
So that'd be one with Ange and one with Rod. I mean, that's 3 out of 4 in a manager there.
I mean,
you've got to join these dots, mate. Like, it's not coincidence that these things, they're not coincidence. I'll give you a great example of that. When we talk about, I was saying earlier about Matt O'Reilly signing the new deal, which obviously can maximise his selling fee. I'll tell you what also maximised it, the 12-month development he did under fucking Brendan. It's that simple, mate.
He was a favour under Ange, you know what I mean?
Well, Aaron Moy was preferred to him, and I've went down that road. I don't want to bore everyone with it, but it's a disgrace when you look back at that. When you see how good that player is, you thrive on developing him. You don't get an old pals acting to be instead of. That's my take on it. I know folk can disagree.
Mhm.
But anyway, let's go to one of the comments. And as always, we are trying to encourage you. Hashtag T.N.F. Get some points in for us tonight. Martin Wilmot. He says, keep your eyes on the board. He's using my own words against me, Judge. I love that. What a way to start, Mark. We need a head of recruitment. We need a recruitment team. What's happening? Are we still asleep when it comes to recruitment? Rodgers saved the day in the summer. Well, there's a huge argument for that because obviously what we're saying is right now there seems to have been a shift, Martin. That is undeniable. From replacing a 25, 30 million pound player, we were still going back to the maybe 2-3 million pound players and hope that one of them's good out of the two. And it was a safe investment. This time we went sort of upper echelons of our wage bracket, if not surpassing it, with Engels, and smashed a transfer fee to replace our record sale with a record transfer. Those things work in tandem for me, no problem, right? Because they're so out of sync that it doesn't mean we're spending crazy. Do you know what I mean? In fact, the whole Engels package will probably total to around 60% of what we got for O'Reilly. That's healthy investment.
Mhm.
But I do get you keep your eyes on the ball. When you say we need to head a recruitment team, though, here's my challenge to that point, Judge, and this is where I want to get in the nitty gritty on what Martin's saying, because see, when I look at that, a head of recruitment coming in, I think a lot of people think in modern day football means there's this stability of the club where I think we're coming out of that phase actually, because a lot of the guys that they're identifying under this sort of prerequisite weren't fitting who's in the dugout. And the real times we've seen proper action in the transfer windows of the recent eras are two occasions this summer, which looks like it's got Brendan's sort of persuasion and influence all over them because of the fees involved. And of course, Ange Postecoglou's first summer, because you knew from the leagues they were coming from that the managers tend to have the reins. So I'm not sure. I don't like the head of recruitment thing. I lean towards when Martin says recruitment team, but I would have them identified by the manager. I think you do it in the identity of what he's trying to do right now. And I think no Celtic manager, right, gets to the job of being Celtic manager without knowing we're not going to sign, 3 30-year-olds right at the peak of their powers that have no sell-on fee, right? That ain't going to happen. So they're going to be going, look, I want one to come and have instant impact. I want one that I'm going to be able to work with that we think can go on to be a star. You know what I mean? I want someone to come in maybe for a bargain fee, like a Luke McCowan, who could challenge for a first team because we can develop them at the right age to come in without a settling in period. This sort of mix is fine. You get a team around you who you can get like-minded. I think if you've got someone above you, and I dare say it sometimes that de facto person was fucking Lowell. I generally believe at times they were getting it for old pals, lists for old pals, not enough work done, but just under the prerequisite of age, wage, fee. That was the prerequisite. And maybe the potential thing was probably the fourth factor, right? Whereas now what you want is you don't want to upset this. And I think Ange to be, as much as I say batted his eyelids at the very least at Spurs, I think Ange was like when he's seen like fucking Scott Bain's 3-year deal and he kind of acknowledged that he knew nothing about it. I think then he knew like, wait the fucking now. I bet you as much as here's one for you. Matt O'Reilly wasn't fancied particularly in Ange's second season. Matt O'Reilly was only bought the January midway through the season before, right? He didn't want him. He wanted Riley McGree. His Australian compatriot, who I'm not saying is a bad player, don't know anything about him. But if you're the manager, then you're going, oh, wait now. That should be within our financial, like what I've brought in at the club in terms of the players I've had to, the players I've brought in, their valuation on the park right now, albeit we've not sold them, what we've brought in Champions League revenue, when we weren't favourites to win the league, I should have the right then, midway through the season, to get who I want. Do you know what I mean? Or if we're going to get Champions League, I should say. We didn't have it by then. But you know what I mean? I think then he's probably thought, oh, they've shifted already. And he's not like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard to explain, but I just think right now a recruitment team around Rodgers, like-minded, Mark, would be my way forward. I'm not bothered about getting some name head of recruitment coming that really could stink out the place and end up becoming the sort of the embodiment of shitey windows. I would rather it was all in the manager and the guys that he wants around him making these calls, good or bad.
Well, that's it. That only works if your head of recruitment's a better manager than your manager. You know what I mean? If your head of recruitment's a dodo, then you're just going to end up with a manager coming in, getting pissed off with these dodo signings, and it's rinse and repeat. You know what I mean? That's just going to happen. Listen, all your recruitment team or strategy is going to be is the manager's been hired by the board. If his vision is good enough to get the job, then the people behind the scenes are acting on the manager's requests and are able to pinpoint targets with the manager's, set standards, you know what I mean? Key performance index, you know what I mean? He's got to be the one who's making decisions on what type of player he wants. Now, see, look at Hearts, they signed something like 10 wingers in the summertime there. You know what I mean? I dare say the manager probably wanted a striker or a proper centre back. But see, this is what happens when you've got somebody got his recruitment teams. Like that. I'm not saying they've got one, but you get recruitment teams that maybe sit back and go, "We still haven't found that number 8 we need yet." This, and the manager's like, "No, I need a right back for this formation I'm playing. You know, this is the team needs a better right fitted centre back just now for talk's sake." And then you get two different voices, you know what I mean? Try to bring in a type of player. I think it just causes confusion. And
I've
then
got another one for you. Oh, sorry, Mark. Go on, you go. Sorry, mate.
No, that's right. I just think sometimes that the manager, you know what I mean, the buck, if it doesn't work out for the manager, it should be sacked. Then you start again, you know what I mean? I'm not talking about rip up the full club and start again, but you start again the process, you rethink things. I don't think having somebody who's, as you said, a figurehead or somebody who's going to be like this figure that's going to be, like the sign of bad windows. If you get a transfer, if you get some sort of head of recruitment in who is bad, you're going to get a manager coming in, starts off no bad. They're not going to be on the same page. Performances fall, sacked, rinse and repeat, and see before you know it, you've got to Man U stage and you've wasted 7, 8, 9 years. You know what I mean? You've bought 5, 6 different managers. You've bought 40, 50 players. I mean, see a head of recruitment, it does not make a good manager. A manager makes a good manager because there's no head of recruitment in the planet that's earning a third the money they're earning when they go and be a manager, if they could be a manager. Surely they want to sit back swinging their chair like you're doing, watching clips for football in Argentina when they could be sitting.
How did you know that's what I was doing right now?
I can see, mate. I've got this. my all-seeing eye can see it, but you know what I mean.
No, I get you. I've got a couple of things for you on that, right? Because I think you're lighting a fire in me on this conversation because I'm now casting my mind back to a couple of things Brendan related, believe it or not, and one Celtic related, one's not. Prior to Celtic, he was obviously at Liverpool. They sell Suarez for, I don't know, what was it, 88 million, something like that. Someone could correct me. And ended up with like 5, 6, 7 players out of that, rather than 2 or 3 of the real deal sort of players. Now, one of them, if you remember, was Mario Balotelli. Now, if you look back at the Premier League years, episodes and all that, Mark, Brendan Rodgers is associated with signing Mario Balotelli. It's a Brendan Rodgers flop. There is no way that would have been a player he would have identified to be his lead line striker.
No, it wasn't he. He said that, didn't he? It was that recruitment team in this. Right?
Look how it's represented now. And then the other thing I've got for you on what you're saying with regards to head of recruitment, who picks the head of recruitment? The club? Is that what we're saying? So you've got that steady flow. So if a manager drops out, we've still got the. But if the club pick the head of recruitment and his vision or his, what he sees in a player is miles off what the manager does, that ain't going to work.
Yeah.
But then you've got the manager who picks it, and Lee Congerton, who check his record, ladies and gentlemen, everywhere but Celtic, who identifies players. When he looks, he's obviously got half a business head as well and goes, yeah, that's affordable. I know what the Champions League revenues look like. I know what 60,000 season tickets look like. Do you know what I mean? I know what a 25 million sale of a player looks like. And when he then goes to you with his list of recommended talents, this is Brendan's guy being head of recruitment, remember? Knowing these guys fit into Brendan's football, Celtic say no. Celtic say no. That's too much. So you've then got that. I wonder if not having that middleman and just having that direct dialogue, and maybe, I might be going too far here, but fuck it. Maybe there is a wee bit of Dermot doing a bit of mediating. A tiny bit of mediating as in, well, maybe not in a three-way conversation, but maybe Brendan going, "How you're going to have a word." Like I want Adam Eder. Right, I've made my mind. Like I've made my mind up 3 months ago. Now we've just said that. Like I want to go fucking get him. And Dermot's then that. I'm not sure this head of recruitment system, based on the examples I've just given, that are Brendan Rodgers actually sort of relative to, fills me with loads of confidence.
No, I think you said a minute ago that you think it's getting phased out of football. I don't see many big clubs. I mean, because if you want to attract a big manager now, it's harder to attract them and then tell them, do you know what, you come in, you can take the flat, you can take the team. But see Jimmy there, he's picking the players you're buying. He's telling you the way this football club normally plays, and this is the players that we need to play that system. How does that work? As I said, that only works if that guy is better than the manager. And if that's the case, why isn't he on the manager in the first place? I just don't understand it. I think it's just see for 3 or 4, maybe 5 years now, it seems to be in this kind of like, that's going to fix everything. But it's the opposite.
It's like, bullshit. It's bullshit. It's people used to think it was stability, eh? Bullshit.
See the things that going, if something's gone wrong, that's the time for you to rip up and start again. I don't mean throw the baby out with the bathwater, but rip it up, take a new approach. There's no point. See if I've got a set vision and work or whatever. I mean, that I've got that vision. I've got that, I've got that style, you know what I mean? No matter who's coming in, you know what I mean? I'm going to stick to Mark. And if I'm the one who's in charge of making recruitment and the rest of it, I'm not going to deviate for that. I'm no. So if unless this guy's better.
Hi, Mark. Here's your new assistant, mate.
Aye, I mean,
you'd be like, what? Sorry, did we not invite you to interview? So sorry, mate.
Exactly.
Like it is. That wouldn't work, would it?
Honestly, that, as I say, only works if the guy who makes the decisions is got a better footballing brain than the manager. Because then the manager's just no getting what he's trying to do. I think it's normal all the way about. You're going to have a manager who knows football inside out. See a lot of these recruitment guys. I'll give you a prime example. Lobel's son, Mark. He's never played football at amateur level, professional level. He's never been a coach. He's never been in the training field with professionals and amongst elite athletes. Never, ever, ever. And yet, if everything was going right, we're having some toffee nose we are so telling any Celtic manager that comes in what style of football they have to play and what type of player they have to buy. It should be the manager. Ancelotti plays different football for Jose Mourinho. Mourinho different for Ten Hag to, I don't know, Brendan Rodgers. They come in, they give the recruitment team, I need a left back. His height doesn't matter, but he's got to be athletic. He's got to be a good ball carrier. He's got to be well disciplined and somebody who's very low analytics when it comes to yellow cards. Because I need a player that's going to stay on the park. That's what I want you to do. No, I want a left back and him going like, oh no. Tell you what, I'll get you one who's slow on the ball, but I like ones that can defend old fashioned. That's not how it works, boys. It should be the manager who picks, and
so then you really need a real dedicated, like-minded bunch around you. Now Paul Byrne comes in.
But really, boys, I think you could have a recruitment team who are probably kind of bereft of ideas, but can take direction. Get me a left back. You look at analytics. You get me somebody who can go watch them based on your analysis and tell me he's good enough. But I need guys who can look at the type of player I want.
But I think you're then going back to the like-minded point I'm making. If I'm honest, I do.
But even maybe I took what you said wrong there. But even somebody who's probably not even football orientated, but can analyze data and then give the information to somebody who is.
Well,
That John Kennedy for talks who can watch a player.
You've led us in there, Mark, brilliantly. Great dovetailing. I know you can't read that on the screen, so you've done fucking magnificently there to dovetail in. Because Paul Byrne says it's a manager and data driven. It's manager and data driven. That's the road we are going down. That's what we've invested in. You're going round in circles. Or just to go more round in circles, Paul, I actually starred one of your comments earlier. We are one of a group of very few football clubs who have invested in the best scouting software around. Now, Paul, these are two interesting things that you're sort of, to use the expression again, dovetailing together. So we've invested in the best scouting software around. I take it that was recently.
Was it talking about Y-Scout? Every club said that. Livingston's got that.
Whatever the scouting software was, they must have got like they must have got a new version of it, mate. That's simple because let's talk again about where we were. Let's say springtime, and it was it 1 out of 19, 2 out of 19 signings we'd made, but couldn't get looking. 17 out of 19, only 2 had sort of got past marks. I think it was Bernardo and Palmer at that point. Other than that, nobody made it. So this scouting system he's already in, saying yes, it's very recently good, but what matters here is it's manager and data. I'm not sure we're going round in circles. It's actually it's far from it. From my point of view, Paul, and don't worry, I'm not being all precious about it, but from my point of view, this is a path, not a circle, and certainly not our even discussion is. We're saying it looks quite different what Celtic are doing right now. We're actually kind of highlighting the flaws and the potential hurdles that having a dedicated kind of recruitment and shit like that can have. And if it is how you're saying, this investment in a data scouting system, it's data driven, it's just manager and data sort of driving the whole thing. We've certainly seen a change in it, so we're delighted with that. So thanks for your point as well. We really appreciate it, because I know what you mean. Something's definitely changed, and if you're saying that's very recently, then thanks for the insight, because it does seem as there's been a shift. I look at it more simply than that. I think the manager with 2 trophies behind him, another Champions League qualification, has just been a bit more Brendan. But hey, I talk.
Well, he did say in the last couple of days of that window that the club are starting work just now on a new recruitment plan. No one like how they, and I think he'll be key to how that's formed. You know what I mean, in the direction it goes.
But hey, I'm happy with that.
Me too, mate. Me too.
I
think it's going to be like zonal marking. I think it's going to be what's going to be eventually just it was a fad. Then they work for the big teams and we'll just move on with it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, hopefully that'll be with goal kicks with 2 centre backs in the at the 6-yard box beside the goalkeeper. I hate all that shit. Do you know what I mean?
I remember Eddie Scott down. Remember him? Remember his
finished bottom with Aberdeen, but they didn't get relegated.
I mean, remember his corner kicks? All the players would run. They go inside the box.
That's right. And they ran in like a circle. That's right. I think they did it in a circle at one time as well. That's right.
He would create chaos. He would create chaos, and hopefully, quite similar to what Rangers do. I think Rangers' tactic is get the ball in the box and create chaos, and hopefully it traps for you. And it's worked for long enough. But I remember that. You know, I mean, that's a kind of probably no zonal marking, but probably zonal attacking. But these fads come and go. I don't think head of recruitment. I think.
Do you know the one fad that never comes and goes? Winning fucking football matches.
That's what matters, mate.
It is. It just is. But anyway, because we'll find a way to describe the style brilliant if we're winning. You win fucking 8 out of 8 in the Champions League by lumping the ball up, and we'll go, that's innovative stuff. We've caught the whole competition off guard. We're doing something that no one else has thought of. So it's just all bullshit. All the dressing up. 3 points, trophies. That's what matters. Anyway,
that's what matters,
That's so obvious, eh? Right, Alan Mockwa comes in. Great to have you on, as always, Alan. And he's saying, T.N.F, will the board hold back and wait and see what we do in the Champions League before offering Brendan a new contract? I think that's a fair point, because do you know what as well? I think that if we're being consistent, that's the yardstick Brendan wants to be measuring Celtic by, then Celtic have every right to say, okay, let's to complete that game. We'll measure you by the same standards. How are you going to get on now we've played ball a bit with you for that? I think that's fair. And I think actually now you've said that, Alan, that does maybe kind of influence me a wee bit to go, new contract, bit premature. Let's see how he does now. He's kind of got his way a bit. And the board, by the way, don't forget, as Martin Wilmot said earlier, keep your eyes on them. They've got examples of being petty little bastards. They've got examples of being, told you so, vibes over fuck all. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's a bit of them almost, waiting with bated breath to see how this goes in a no-lose situation where they say, well, look, we invested in the manager, it hasn't worked out. And the flip side being, of course, if it does work out, we're the geniuses who's funded all that. Shane Gallen's point there.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, that is true. If he's the one that's come out and said, I want to get this club back to kind of European, steady being Boys, European standard football club, then of course you got to hold the guy to his word, and the club have backed him, albeit we made a profit, but the club have backed him to the vision that he wanted. He asked for two players to break our transfer budget, and they did. I don't want to get caught up. I agree with you. You got to break your inflation dictates you've got to break previous barriers, of course. But no, it's a good point. I do genuinely think that they would press a button on a new contract than Uber, because I think they know they've got an elite manager. In my opinion, he's an elite manager. I think he's probably, in terms of attracting managers that we already know about, he's probably the very, very, very peak we can buy. I don't think we might get the next youth manager who's no made his peak yet and discover him, but we'll never attract a better manager than what Rodgers already is. You know what I mean? So I think they would push the button on a new contract. I think Rodgers and his own team of lawyers, etc., will probably be a bit more coy on the subject. You know what I mean? But
See, just listen to you now. Listen to you now, right? And obviously it's me who's hosting these conversations with your good self, Mark, on for years now. But I cast my mind back to last year where you were quite. I was concerned. I thought, fucking hell, of it, right? And I was kind of the last to pull the trigger in the window, the last summer window being a flop. I wanted to be the last to sort of go, maybe this won't work with Brendan. Maybe it's not working. I wanted to be the last to it. And I remember you be quite. I don't think I'm here to catch out with it. It's not what I mean.
No.
The actual point I'm going to get to here is how good an experience you think that was for him last year, knowing now what it feels to go, I'm 50-50 here in the fans split. Like, I think when he came in, he was probably 65-35 in favour. I think there was a point in time last season, 50-50, if not 40-60, the other way, that maybe this just ain't going to work.
I turned it off, definitely.
See that in terms of the longevity we were talking about. How fucking good is that, though, to have got that now under your Gucci belt? To actually work with, though, because that is now seeing the pitfalls he's probably not seen. He's seen pitfalls, mate, because there was a fan base to a man gutted he left. That's where the vitriol comes from. Because if he's doing bang average, and that's when I loved when folk turned into, it was boring under him anyway. So what are you bothered about him he left for? Why are you crying your eyes that he left? Why would you be crying that he left? Everyone was crying that he left because they knew you were onto a good thing with Rodgers there. And it was him trying to take Celtic the direction we wanted to go, not the board. And I do feel now, this second time round, that sticky spell that he had last season, and as I always say, first opening 15 league games, 12 wins, 3 draws, didn't feel like that when we were talking about him over winter or in the early new year. That experience has got to help him as well. And I wonder if it also fires the hunger a wee bit more as well, Mark, and going, oh, fuck this. Now I've really got the bit between my teeth because I'm seeing all aspects of this job. And it can be more challenging than it was first time. And I'm going to prove anyone who's doubted me fucking wrong. And that's the ego bit that will come in.
Well, this is it. I mean, one of the things that as football fans we've not got the luxury of, and that's perspective. A lot of times we just go on the last result. You know what I mean? We tend not to be reflective. I know I'm not. I'm very reactionary when it comes to Celtic. And do you know what? I don't apologise for it, and I don't think you would either, boys. You do react to results. You know what I mean? I think
absolutely.
Aye, in an
You're
extreme
in love
case,
with
obviously Arsene
Celtic.
Wenger. You know what
If
I
you're
mean?
in love, you're vulnerable.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
emotions are
definitely.
vulnerable if you're in love. If we're in
Aye,
love with Celtic, your emotions are very
aye,
vulnerable. It's so
that's it.
true.
And you overhype the good times and you overhype the bad times. So when a manager's performing badly, always the end of the world. You want him sacked. You want his firstborn to be born with 3 years. You name it. See when they're performing good, God, you want them knighted. You know what I mean? You want them to be lifelong contracts. And you know what? I'll keep running with that system. I don't really care. But it is worth pointing out that see through it all, and there was moments where he had digs at the fans, and there was moments where he looked a bit like a new version of Rodgers. But see through it all, when you look back, he was still calm enough that he backed himself. There wasn't any signs that I thought he's totally lost here. You know what I mean? I personally didn't get the Chris Sutton stuff when he was saying that he's 1 foot out, 1 foot in. You know what I mean? I felt like the guy was here. He just wasn't working this time. You know what I mean? So and I do think he backs himself, and this is the show's just turned into a wee bit of a Brendan Rodgers discussion, but it's been mostly positive. I think
Just
he's
going with the
done so well
tagline.
just now that I think he deserves the fans to be going, okay, we doubted you to begin with, or you were on board and then you doubted me, or vice versa. But season 2, good result in Europe, and let's dream. There's nothing anybody told you can't dream. Let's dream to get another result next Wednesday. Who knows? I mean, there's been bigger surprises in football. But I think we'll get the right guy in charge of the club now. I think the board will feel the same way. A new contract might not be
I don't know.
what
I'm still not. I'm not there yet that they're 100% sold he's the right guy. I still think they have their own agendas, and
of course they do. You're talking
I don't think
Greeks here.
his suit theirs, because they would have been more fluid in their dealings with previous managers, let alone this guy coming back. But Plunge is wanting to know, just when you touched on the European result, the chance of a European result, that's why kind of the real reason I cut in. Do you compare Brendan with a Guardiola and Ancelotti or a Ferguson? I mean, I think that's levels that you're
Somebody's got to
talking
take a photograph of that.
the football gods, mate. However, the one thing I would say is he's definitely beaten Guardiola. We were talking about this last time about the Ferguson thing. Ancelotti, I wonder if he beat him when he was at Everton or something. I don't know, man. I mean, I don't compare him with that level whatsoever.
No.
But where I do put him is, though, I think there's, and the reason you don't put managers up there like that is probably because they don't have the CV, mate. They just don't have that trophy record. So you've got to take yourself away from that. But in terms of, if you were to say like the next rung down, would Brendan do well at, for example, a Bayern Munich? In my opinion, yes. That's the honest truth.
Aye.
I think he would have no problem. That's where Guardiola and Ancelotti both have been, I think. I think Ancelotti was there a bit. But I know Guardiola was, obviously. Would he do well there as well? Yeah, sure. Would Brendan Rodgers do well at Man City? I'm pretty sure he would. Would he do well at Man United? I think he'd do better than their current manager. Let's whisper that. But interesting. I compare him with them. No, he's not. He's not that. But he's elite for, maybe it's elite for Celtic, we should say, Plunge, if that's your take on it.
I think there's
Anyway,
see elite boys.
God.
I think there's even with a category like elite, there's different versions of elite. You've got the elite and you've got the top ones that are the very peak.
Like
But
Henrik Larsson or Ronaldo 9.
That's the example I was going to give. I was going to say it to you.
Was it?
I was going to say when you come to that Larsson, in my opinion, he's the only true world-class player that I've seen in my lifetime. As in, but what I was going to say is, would you put him in with Messi and Ronaldo? Probably not, but you'd put him in with the very, very best of his time at a certain level amongst elite. And I feel like Rodgers, his one big job was Liverpool, and but for a slip, he would have been the first manager to win an EPL for Liverpool ever until they got one during COVID. You know what I mean? And
the only one as well still.
And
Klopp's just left there after what, a decade? He won one.
That's what I'm saying. That was during COVID.
And it was the COVID season.
Happen.
And we all know what we think of those titles.
Was that? It didn't happen.
And that's all he's done. That's all he did. So Brendan took them to a title race. You're right. I'm glad you're saying all this. Anyway, we're going to move on because it has been a loving, as you say. Charles Smithson, right? This is how
Let's hate somebody.
Let's talk about strikers. Has Ida hit the form to take Kyogo's slot as the first pick? Now, I, as you know, have a brilliant relationship with Tony Haggerty, who does the Celtic way. He's, me and him are still. We're pals, he's a good guy, Tony. And he likes to pick my brains. Sometimes I think he just wants a wee witty response. And I just gave him the one I always give him the burst of the week. He says, Adam Ida, and your thoughts on Ida as a player. So I'll read it. I'll try and work it out. I'm not trying to sell him in this one. It's nothing controversial whatsoever. He just, it was after the weekend, obviously. He went, Adam Ida, your thoughts, sir. And I just wrote back, I was busy as fuck at work. And I was like, influences outcomes.
Enough said.
He influences outcomes. He wrote back loads of laughter faces and loads of like that. And that's what he is to me. He influences. I think people are panicking at halftime at the weekend. His performance, boom. Big moments, you look how cool he gets, mate. He gets ice. Is he at the form, though, Mark, to take Kyogo's slot as the first pick, is what Charles Smith is asking?
Well, I've fought so for about the last 4 or 5 weeks. I think Kyogo has been busy and he's looked sharper, but he's done nothing in front of goal, boys. I know he got a goal in Europe, and I know he got that goal against Rangers, two very key goals, but he's not like the kind of guy. We need somebody who's got one chance, he's got to take it just now in Europe. And then in the league, he's going to get 10 shots and goal in the league. If a team shows up at Celtic Park like Falkirk did last week with better players, you come unstuck, you know what I mean? So I think for me, I think there's a big shout, a big call, I think, for the manager. But something, it's a good conversation because you're now saying it's a good player or a good player rather than is it O, or you know what I mean? Same with Bernardo and Hatate. I think most folk are comfortable with any three, but I'm now in a position where I think it's got to be Bernardo. I think Awata is playing himself out of that team week in, week out. He's looking further away from it, and I think Kyogo's similar.
Not Awata, Hatate.
No, I was talking about no Hatate. That's what I meant. Thanks for correcting me.
So I wasn't chatting.
Actually, funnily enough.
But this is what I hate, right? Because folk are like now posting on social media about Awata scoring a couple of pearlers for Birmingham, and it's like, what a player! I'm like, he's playing League One.
The third division.
What is it? The Canio quote apparently, like on Sky Sports. Remember he subbed off Wes Foderingham, who went on to Rangers after that, and he's like, "What's he?" And Wes Foderingham was right, going, "League One, Wes," and I'm like, "League One, Awata. Nobody cares what he does at League One. I'm not interested in scoring pearlers at that level. We're talking Champions League, baby. You know what I mean? So fuck all that nonsense. I think when it comes to the debate about up front, is great to have it being balanced. O was not part of the equation, but as I'm saying about Awata, watch him score a couple of raspers in Belgium.
I haven't either.
Yeah, I know. And it went all nuts. I didn't see your Twitter. I seen it posted. I'm like, I know what's coming now. I told you it was a player there. No, there's a player for... O might become a player at Genk. He might then have built himself up to go somewhere else. Celtic was too big a bridge for him to overcome. He has never experienced anything like that. It was too big a jump, and that was never going to get fixed at Celtic. O wasn't going to become a good version of O if he becomes a shite player sound. But he was never going to become the best potential version of himself at a club he couldn't handle. He was never, ever that competition. Ida's bona fide, more than just competition, hungry to take your jersey, Kyogo. This is now, in my opinion, a complete face-off. It's who wants it most. And I do think as well, what I love about the dynamic is it brings those two different styles to the team. As much as we'll still play the same way, Kyogo's outlet and Ida's reason for using a different outlet are totally different. Either can bring guys into play quickly if you just go straight to the front man. With Kyogo, you can just go long and in behind and he can race onto it because his timing and his runs is fantastic. This is a real dilemma, Mark, that I want to be talking about at Celtic now.
Well, definitely. I think what we've found is, for the first time in a good while, we've got real competition. And it's not just a case of having a first pick and then somebody who's fell off a cliff. We've got players who can, in some areas, be a match, if not better than the person already holding the jersey. It's a good conversation to have. Because now we're in a position now where we can say to ourselves, does he suit this game? Is he might be the away against Hearts striker. He might be the home against Dundee striker. No, we can now pick. And I think Rodgers is formed that, you know what I mean? And this is how key it was to get the second striker, the decision on that correct. You make another pig's ear of that, Boise. You get another season with one striker who's no performance sometimes. And this is the thing, you know. And I think it's the same goes for midfield. They were key areas of the park, and I think Rodgers has filled them perfectly. But one thing's for sure is I do think that Eden needed that goal. See, I want to get chopped off a few weeks ago. He needed that goal because I thought he was beginning to look a bit like, oh fuck, I woke up here again. I'm a Celtic and I don't know where to go. It was
Celtic's fault, by the way.
Listen, 100%. And I say
all
to
the
day one,
praise.
if you look at Kuhn with 6 weeks of Brendan Rodgers one-on-one, what would he have done to he missed a month's training? And look at Jackie Marcus when he was kind of 50-50 whether he was going to go to Celtic or Wolfsburg or stay at his club. You look what happened there. We lost that guy for 4 months before he made an impact. Luckily, he just kept himself, you know what I mean, relatively fit, and he came in and had he been a new signing, we wouldn't have had that continuity that we had if he hadn't been at the club last season. So it might have been December before we saw this guy up to speed, you know what I mean? He's had that continuity where he spent a lot of time at Celtic last year. He's missed some trainings, missed some football, but he's had enough in him to get himself a few weeks later than anybody else up with the first team. So,
but now he is.
And now he is. Listen, if we play Rangers tomorrow, part of me still thinks they are shit scared of Kyogo. But if Ida was to start, I wouldn't be putting my hands up in the air and saying it's a bad decision.
No.
But again,
that's a great way to describe it as well.
It's a good conversation because it's no like we're going, you know, Rob Douglas or Dimitri Karin. We're talking about proper competition here. You know
Which is all we've advocated as well, not to blow the buses fucking trumpet and that, but that is what we've always said. It's so obvious, it stares in the face. Right, Mark, we're nearly done. Just I know your eyes lit up when you're talking about Bernardo. Now again, this is why I think it's so important to listen to when people feel strongly about something. They have the courage of their convictions to say it at the time, and they have the courage of their convictions to give a different view when their mind changes by what's happened in between. This is where people get lost, Mark, because they think when you say something on this day, right? So the 1st of January, you've said this about a player. You watched 20 games in between there, for example. But you said on the 1st of January when you'd watched 3 games. This is, see if you what, that's all Nostradamus bullshit. And that stops people having proper conversations and proper opinions at the moment they're in when they're discussing it. Because you can't be Nostradamus all the time, and you can't be Mr. Bigger Picture, reflection, experience, seen all this before. No. What we want to do and why podcasts do well in the first place is because initially there's a demand for your instant reaction. People want to hear what you think in the here and now, not, well, he was shite the day, but I think in 4 months will be good. Fuck off. No. If you want to hear that, toddle on. Bernardo has to be someone who has shifted opinion, Mark. Is that fair to say?
Definitely, boys. I think for me personally, and I think me and you spoke. It might have been after. I'm not sure. We spoke a couple weeks ago, and I was saying to you boys, look, I think it takes a level of arrogance for somebody not to admit they're wrong. Did I think? Looking at
Bernardo's performance? It's a great quote.
And did I think that Bernardo's performances last season gave me excitement? No, it didn't, boys. I'm not going to lie to you. It did not. I wouldn't have signed him, or at least pushed the boy to sign him. Am I glad he signed? Aye, 100%. We saw a player. The player we saw last weekend wasn't the player we saw last season. I don't think there's an argument about that. So, but what I will say is,
Wonder how he got better in 12 months.
well, there you go, working with an elite manager. But I think, see if I turn around and say to you, boys, I told you in October 2023 I don't like this player, so I can't change my mind. I'd be an arsehole, wouldn't I? I would be. You know what I mean? So, I've had this on Twitter.
What you should have done is say, I think Bernardo could be some people's cup of tea. He might not be mine right now. He might be good and he might not be good. He might be worth 6 million, but Celtic might be 3.5. Nobody cares about that fucking flaky shite. See at the time if you weren't fancying it. Tell me you don't fancy it. See in 6 months you go, I'm seeing a player there. Tell me you see a player there, and I'll show you an honest man.
Exactly, mate.
That's all you can ask for.
There's something in American sports journalism. There's a lot of journalists that they call Monday morning quarterbacks. They give their opinion on a Monday morning after the weekend
I heard
games.
that expression yesterday for the first ever time.
But did
That's
you?
mental. You just brought that up.
Well, that's funny.
Aye.
It's just basically so you gain your opinion after the event. I wouldn't have played this player, because he broke his leg. You know what I'm saying? You just saw what happened when he played. So, and I think there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks. Some folk on a Friday night give their predictions, boys, saying I'm just one of them. You know what I mean? And I don't mind being right. I would listen. You know how much I don't rate Bernabe, but see if he came back and played 20 class act performances.
No,
I
you
would
can't
first
say
want to
that.
say,
No,
look, he's
you
proven me
can't.
wrong.
No, you
Is
can't
that?
do that. No, you can't do that. You've got to just keep it shite.
Well, but I would at least try. I would at least say it.
Because
You know
then
what
I can go. See, you got it wrong. You got it wrong. I don't understand that logic.
Yeah.
It does my
if I come
fucking
in and
head
says,
in.
I think it's not just me and not just you, but I think anybody see on Twitter, like they'll see like, I think, who was it? I got chinned last week because, or 2 weeks ago, I went, what a goal for Maeda. Or Mark, you said you'd like Maeda. And I'm like, well,
You're right. I know.
I've probably never said that I hate Maeda, but I've probably said he is not the footballing ability that we need. I've said
That's
that
not. No.
many
Wait the now. I'll just come in here, right? You never said you didn't like Maeda once. You're spot on. But what you did say was you couldn't trap a balloon at a kid's party.
Aye, that's where he plays football.
It wasn't quite as reasonable as you're being.
Aye.
But see, at the end of the day, he probably couldn't. He still, but he's playing well. So I'm going to say what's in front of me right now. And
exactly.
I love how people are right all the time. That must mean you're always right. You're just always right. But then you look back on other people's comments and it's, it looks to me it's sugar coated, packet of Square Crisps, bullshit. Scared to go into the territory of, didn't fancy this, don't like the look of him. Because that could be wrong. Scared to say he looks amazing, because that could be wrong. Or you go down the road of wanting likes. And therefore you just say, we just signed Marc Kearney for Celtic. What a player he looks, by the way, judging. We should be excited. There is some out there who've said it about every fucking player we've signed. I'm talking about the 19-2 ratio, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You fucking look through some of these journalists' tweets, and they probably deleted them all because they're no daft. But at the time when these guys have joined, you look at the sycophantic nonsense that goes on for likes and curry and favour. I love folk who've got the ability to say what they think at the time. I love people then being able to say, 12 months later, 2 weeks later, I loved what I seen there. Hated what I seen 2 weeks ago, loved what I seen there. What's wrong with that? I don't understand how everyone else is on this steady plane of just their opinions are always. This is bullshit, mate.
I think there's a kind of two-faced about it. Like I had a conversation with Sean my work last week, and I'll tell you exactly what happened. I said to him, see, Bally, you can take him back to wherever he came from and throw away the key. And he's like, oh, you can't judge him after one match. I went, I can. I said, I can.
That's all I've got to judge him on.
Because I said, see if I saw him score a hat-trick, I say to you, what a player he is. And you say to me, oh, aye. So I can judge him as long as I'm being positive, but you can't do it if it's negative. And the first time I saw Kyogo, I went, he's a player. So You can
And then
you
the
can do
key
it with
is as
players.
well. The key is as well. You could say what you said after that debut, right? Then he scores the hat trick the next week.
And I say, oh, well, I've got that round. Aye.
But you also then go, "What's a hat trick?"
Aye.
Talk what's in front of you. Stop
Aye.
trying to be smart. These are that level. I don't mean you. I mean
No,
all these other idiots. It's like it's all just safe spaces, mate. You know, it's like
no, that's
I like the fact you are the way you are, Martin. Keep it going. But anyway,
thank you.
that's us done. One place that'll never be a safe space is the bus, as you know. Brilliant to have you on. Smaller crowd tonight. We know why.
Huns
You're
are
watching
playing.
Malmo Rangers. Don't ever say when Mark says, his analogy was about Celtic fans would have the Rangers game in the back of seats. That was an analogy to the focus of Celtic fans watching Rangers
That's
games
right.
often. You ain't gonna forget things, Mark.
That's
Tonight's a
right.
case in point. Unless me and you are just going down the tubes, mate. But anyway, I'm sure loads of you will catch up. We look forward to hearing all your views. Stick them in the
Thanks,
comments.
guys.
Remember, like, share, subscribe, all that carry on, and we'll be available on all your usual podcasts by the end of the night as well. Cheers. Thanks one,
Thanks,
Judge.
guys.